Hello and welcome back to Exothermic Plays Games. I'm Exothermic and the date today is Friday, July 19th, 2024. I've been doing a countdown of my favorite video games of all time through each day of the year, and coming in at number 166 is Halo Reach. Halo Reach is the newest Halo game on my list, and of the shooters, is the first one chronologically in the story. This still works out since the actual earliest story game is Halo Wars, which I already ranked as my 260th favorite game. I'll talk about the campaign and then hop into multiplayer for a bit. Reach is a prequel to Halo Combat Evolved and showcases the fall of the planet Reach. Reach was the military stronghold for the United Nations Space Command and key for strategic footing in the war against the Alien Covenant. You play as Spartan B312, or as referred to throughout the game, Noble 6. Spartans are genetically enhanced super soldiers that work as elite operatives throughout the war. You're the newest member of the Noble team and are fairly personality-less, but that's okay for a player insert. The rest of the team, however, are quite a cast of characters. Led by Carter, aka Noble 1, he looks out for his own and gets the job done. Second in command is Kat, aka Noble 2. Her primary role on the team is tech and intelligence, and serves up a lot of sass, especially to Carter. Jun is Noble 3 and is probably the best tactician of the group. Emil is Noble 4, and unlike the other members of the Spartan program, is pretty hot-headed, but that's okay because he's a certified badass. Noble 5, and my favorite member of the team, is George. Despite being the heavy weapons specialist, he's a gentle giant and keeps the team focused on the help they are supposed to provide.
Your accent sounds familiar. Chapron?
Tangari.
Friend of yours?
Father.
Sha'ainalong. I'm sorry.
Why would you be?
Big man forgets what he is sometimes.
She just lost her father. She needs a full psychiatric workup.
She's not the only one.
Lock it down, both of you. Get her on her feet. The body stays here.
Your team is deployed to Reach to investigate a downed communications relay. You quickly discover that the Covenant has tracked someone to the planet and is starting a full-blown invasion. You meet it head-on, but it's going to be an uphill battle. Along the way, you're shown the full breadth of the Covenant's armies, from all of the infantry to the massive ships at their disposal. This creates some pretty epic fights that a full team of Spartans are able to appropriately dispatch, but even for them, things can get a bit overwhelming. Throughout the story, which is admittedly way too short, you do start to get a sense of the personalities for some of your teammates. Just in time for most of them to die. Painfully and tragically. Each death is a heavy blow to the team, but the job's not done, so you have to press on. They do a great job with the deaths on making each Spartan go down with a fight. The only one that makes it out alive is Jun, who in the end is carrying out your most important mission. The team is trusted with a critical piece of data that can turn the tide of the entire war. The artificial intelligence known as Cortana, and the location of one of the Halo rings, leading directly into the events of Halo Combat Evolved. For those unfamiliar, Cortana may be a name you recognize. It's the name of the artificial intelligence productivity assistant on newer Windows operating systems. No, the character in Halo isn't named after this, that would be dumb. The assistant is named after the character in Halo. They even used the same voice actress to build the US English voice for it. So, cool cross-branding, Microsoft, even if I've never once used your tool and don't plan to. Cortana, in Halo, is an incredibly important character, being the Master Chief's, and thus the player's, constant companion throughout at least the first trilogy. I say at least because I haven't played any of the games not developed by Bungie, and I probably won't. Though, now that I have the Master Chief Collection, get it? It's by far the best way to play these Bungie titles nowadays. I might as well play Halo 4 eventually. Point is, Cortana's cool, and the foreknowledge of how critical this mission is makes the sacrifice of Noble Team actually feel worth it. The ending to Halo Reach is, in my opinion, one of the coolest moments in all of gaming history, and pretty much makes up for how short the campaign is. Its brevity is my biggest complaint, and the sole reason this game isn't in the top 100. While the cast is interesting, you barely have the time to get to know some of them before their departure. But at the end, you securely kick off the events of the rest of the franchise and are left to finish off as many Covenant as possible. You're given a single objective: survive. It's impossible. You could, in theory, fight the good fight for hours, but eventually you'll die. That's just how the story has to end. As the fight drags on, you take critical damage to your suit and the user interface disappears. The immersion and build-up to Noble Six's final moments are incredible and a testament to the storytelling of the game, especially for players familiar with the rest of the story. And it's a good thing you can just keep fighting, because the combat in this game is great. Halo is known for its phenomenal first-person shooting and game feel. Historically, I'd say the FPS on computer should be done with mouse and keyboard for its superior aiming systems. But that feels criminal for Halo, and I'll only ever use a controller. I'm happy to report that the PC port feels just as good with controller as I remember the original versions. The first thing I did was head into the settings and swap my controller setup to Boxer, my preferred setting throughout nearly a full decade of playing these games as they first came out. I like it because of the ease of melee attacks being on the left trigger, and the suboptimal B button gets moved to swapping grenades, which is pretty minimal that I actually need to do that anyways. Gunplay in the game is great. I think the franchise generally achieves my optimal balance between a gamey bullet sponge and lethality from different weapons. Spartans are trained in combat both with human weapons and also Covenant, and while each one has different options that cover all of the necessary roles, they're quite different. I'll go into more detail on some of the weapons as I cover the original trilogy throughout the year, but there is something big I want to touch on. Reach added special abilities on top of the typical gun and grenade combat. There are 7 different activated abilities you can equip, but only one at a time. With the campaign, this allows you to pick them up as you go and cater your loadout based on the challenge in front of you. Maybe you want camouflage to get into position and take out some bigger enemies to start the fight. Maybe you want armor lock to withstand massive ship fire that will periodically get to you. Maybe you just want the flexibility from Sprint, especially if you're doing speedruns that are now available and tracked within the Master Chief Collection. The abilities are a fun twist on the traditional combat of the franchise, and most of them are pretty tame. Some of them kind of limit map design and multiplayer, but it's still fun. Speaking of multiplayer, this is half the reason, if not more, that people play these games. I'm going to largely cover multiplayer in future videos for the franchise, but I do want to touch on it. I like Halo's multiplayer. I like it a lot. I'm awful at it. I definitely don't focus enough on headshots, and that usually means I lose in head-to-head fights, so I typically like the more powerful close-range weapons that can just kind of one-shoot you if I happen to get close enough. Shotguns and energy swords are my bread and butter, though some of this shifts based on the minor, or sometimes major, changes from each title. Having the extra abilities goes a long way in making the game feel different from the other ones, and as for being the last title actually developed by Bungie, it works as a great send-off for all of the granular differences and balance tweaks they made on the weapons across the decade of games they put out. Reach isn't my favorite multiplayer from those games, but it's definitely the most refined and probably the best as far as weapon balance. Halo Reach caps off an incredible story that fundamentally changed the industry, and serves as one of the best prequels ever made, with memorable characters, excellent game feel, and doing just enough different to hold its own as a standalone game. Join me tomorrow as I talk about my 165th favorite game, where I could be playing a Hallmark movie protagonist.